Hello dear friends, my name is Clive Thompson. I'm here to tell you about some major gold purchases and sales of quoted mining stocks that may take place in the next few weeks. And I'm talking about the purchase and sale of billions of dollars of gold mining shares. Now, I say may because nothing is certain until it takes place. However, I think when you see the evidence, you'll certainly agree with me. So, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be focusing more on the purchases because that is what I think my viewers want to know about most. In this video, I will name the purchaser. I will explain the reasons for the purchases. I will tell you the names of the specific shares which are going to be purchased, and I'll identify how much approximately of each company will be purchased. And I can tell you in many cases the amounts are in the hundreds of millions. And of course I'll provide you with all the evidence that you need to draw your own conclusions. Let's start with how I stumbled across this information, which doesn't seem to be widely disseminated or hardly disseminated at all because I've not seen it talked about anywhere else. It all started when I was studying a gold mining stock with a view to maybe investing in it. The name's not important for this exercise. But I was wondering whether the stock should be in the, was in the GDX or the GDXJ. Now the GDX is the symbol for the Van Eck Gold Miners ETF, Exchange Traded Fund. And GDXJ is the symbol for the Van Eck Junior Gold Miners Index. So two different exchange traded funds. So the second one is the GDXJ, the Van Eck Junior Gold Miners Index ETF. So there's two different funds following two different indexes. So I wanted to know which index or which ETF this particular share was in, just out of curiosity. Is it a large cap in the GDX or is it a small cap or medium cap in the juniors, GDXJ? So I went to the website of Van Eck and I downloaded the entire portfolios of GDX and GDXJ in the form of an Excel spreadsheet. I was surprised because I found that this stock was in both funds. I found that a little bit odd because I had always assumed that GDX held the large gold miners and I assumed that the GDXJ, the juniors, held the junior or small gold miners. I didn't expect a stock to be both large and small at the same time. So I decided to investigate a little bit further by looking at how many stocks overlapped in the GDX and GDXJ. I was quite shocked by what I found. Out of 63 stocks in the GDX, 46 of them are also in the GDXJ. So that's 3/4 of the stocks in GDX are also in the GDXJ. Effectively, over 75% of GDXJ's value, in terms of the value of the underlying stocks, is also found in the GDX. So the diversification I thought I was getting by holding both was far less than I expected. And I was also quite surprised to see that there were many silver miners in a gold miners ETF. These are companies like Silver Corp, Endeavour Silver, Discovery Silver Corp, Mag Silver, and others. These were companies which I thought rather belonged in a silver miners exchange traded fund rather than a gold miners exchange traded fund. I thought this is not right. So I thought I'll go and have a look at the prospectus. And when I looked at the prospectus, I came across this. And what we're looking at here, it says Van Eck supplement dated 4th of June 2025, the summary prospectus dated 1st of May, and it says important notice regarding changes in index, investment objective, and principal investment strategy. And I'll read you the important bit here. At a meeting on June the 3rd, the Board of Trustees of the Trust considered and improved 1. Changing the fund's benchmark from the NYSE ARCA Gold Miners Index to the Market Vector Global Gold Miners Index. And 2, changing the fund's investment objective. And 3, changing the fund's principal investment strategy. Now, what does that mean? It means the GDX Gold Miners ETF will be changing the benchmark it uses and the benchmark it has to track. And it's changing from the NYSE ARCA Gold Miners Index to the Market Vectors Gold Miners Index. 2 completely different benchmarks which no doubt do not have the same securities, or so I thought. So I thought this deserves a little bit of investigation. But before I go on, I'll just tell you a little bit more about what this summary prospectus says. It says, and this is here we're going to get to the date in a minute, but let's talk about the difference between the indexes. To be eligible for the index, that's the new one, the Market Vectors Index. To be eligible for the index, 1. Companies must generate at least 50% of their revenues from gold and or silver mining, royalties, streaming, or have at least 50% of their mineral resources related to gold and or silver. And 2, all stocks must have a market capitalization of greater than $150 million as of the end of the month prior to the month in which a rebalancing date occurs. The weight of companies with less than 50% exposure to gold-related activities will not exceed 20% of the index at rebalance. So what's changed? Previously, they accepted companies which had 25% of their revenues from gold and silver, and now it's got to be at least 50% from gold and silver. Or the accepted companies which had 50% of their, the previously accepted companies which had 25% of their mineral resources related to gold or silver, and now they want at least 50%. So obviously some companies are going to be dropped out of the index, those which don't have 50% in gold or silver. And funny enough, it does include silver, so I didn't realize that the gold miners index was a gold and silver miners index, in fact. But anyway, so all those companies which produce less than 50% or have less than 50% in, both apply in gold and silver, will drop out of the index. So that means a number of companies are going to be removed and a number of companies will have their weighting increased. But let's just read on about the timing here. Where does it say the timing? Yes, here it is. Accordingly, after the close of trading on the New York Stock Exchange ARCA Inc. on September 19th, 2025, that's in about 10 days, 8 or 9 days' time, on or after the closing on September 19th, 2025, the effective date, the fund's benchmark index will be the index and the fund's investment object and principal investment will change in connection therewith. So basically, the benchmark related to the GDX is going to change on September the 19th, and to track the new index correctly, the holdings have to match the new index. So I thought, well, let's line up all the holdings in GDX and compare them with the holdings in the new, or what would be the holdings or the weightings in the new index, and see how they line up. Now, that's pretty easy to find, if you go to the Market Vectors website, you can scroll down and you can get the, here we are, I won't do it here because click on components, it says download, and it will download your spreadsheet. And I also found it's possible to download the index, the Market Vectors Gold Miners Index, to see what's in that. So rather than download those two, I'm going to just show you on the spreadsheet right away. Let's go to my spreadsheet. Here we are. Just make those left aligned. So here we have, on the left-hand column, we have all the current holdings. I'll just bring that close to my face. Here we are. We have all the current, on my left-hand column, we have all the current holdings of the GDX. So it says holding name. First item is Newmont. Market value is 200 or 2.5 billion roughly, and it represents 13.25% of GDX. Next item is Agnico Eagle, representing 11.93% of GDX, and then we can scroll down and we'll see various other companies until we get to eventually at the bottom, right down here. There we are. The last one is called Chifeng Jilong Gold Mining Company of China, quoted in Hong Kong. That's the last one on the list. So that's 63 companies in GDX. Now you're probably wondering, what are these companies coloured in green? Well, the ones in green are the ones which I found are not in the Market Vectors Index, the Market Vectors Gold Miners Index, or Global. It's called the Market Vector Global Gold Miners Index. So the first one, Zijin Mining, a Chinese mining company, is not in the index. It's worth $629 million, so that'll have to be sold. And I scroll down, and then I start to find, as we get lower down, a lot more which are not in the index. Now, the reason most likely these are not in the index is because of the value being less than, didn't we just read it? It had to be $150 million to be qualified, I think. Did I read that correctly? Yes. It says, just go back here. It says here, all stocks must have a market capitalization of greater than $150 million at the end of the month prior to the month in which a rebalancing date occurs. The weight of companies with less than 50% exposure to gold will not exceed 20% of the index at rebalance. So $150 million looks like a sort of cut-off point. So let's go back to that spreadsheet. And we see a lot of companies with relatively low market values, which presumably do not qualify for the new index, or maybe they don't qualify for the GDX. So I thought, that's interesting, and I wondered how much is going to be raised. So I then looked at the new index, called the Market Vectors Gold Mining Index. It's here, column E of my spreadsheet, and I've put the weightings down of each stock in that index. And don't forget, this is the new index which GDX will have to track. And we can scroll down and we can see the weightings of each index. So let's just sort that by percentage weighting. So I'll put that onto descending. And now you can see the largest holding will become Agnico Eagles. It previously was Newmont. And we can scroll down and we'll see that we stop at 45. That means there's 44 stocks in the new index, whereas there were 63 held in the GDX. So all the stocks you see here in green are going to have to be sold, and the money deployed into other companies. So just to add that up, I'll just run my cursor down that lot, and we'll see how much that comes to. Well, won't worry about the cash there. It looks like they're going to sell stocks worth, give or take, 2 billion. Could be a bit more, a bit less, depending on where the index has gone. I suppose it could. I did this a couple of days ago, so it might be a bit more than 2 billion. It was 2.1 billion when I did it. So those stocks in green are all going to be zero in the new index. So presumably they're going to be sold on or around the 19th of September or shortly thereafter, perhaps on the 30th of September at the quarter end, where maybe they do the rebalancing. But what might also interest you is, are there some new companies coming into the index? And the answer to that is yes. I'll just sort on this column here, descending, and if we go down to the bottom here, you'll see, get rid of that, you'll see a bunch of companies in like pink or orange here, which are not in the old index, not in GDX rather, but are in the market vectors index. So I'll just run through those companies for you. There's 7 of them, and these are 7 companies which presumably will have to be purchased if they qualify to go into the into the GDX. So GDX is going to have to sell a lot of investments and buy a lot of investments. And let's look at the changes here of the ones which are never in GDX, which might come into the GDX on or after the 19th of September. The first one is Industrias Penoles SAB de CV. I don't know what CV stands for. It looks like a Mexican company. The next one is Aman Mineral, and that one looks like it's a Indonesian company. JK must be Jakarta. Next one, London Gold, not London, Lundin, London Gold Inc., quoted in Toronto, Canada. Next one, an interesting one, Fresnillo. I must say, I didn't know they were gold miners. I thought they were more silver miners. But anyway, Fresnillo. Well, of course, we're allowed to have silver miners in this index, as we read from the description. So it didn't seem to distinguish between gold and silver. So, yeah, fine. It fits. So Fresnillo, London, UK quoted, is in. And Artemis Gold, with a .v, that must be Vancouver, I suppose, is in. And then there's a company called PT Bumi Resources Minerals, TBK. That looks like it's Jakarta, Indonesia. And then we have Seabridge Gold Inc., which looks like it's New York. And by the way, if you're wondering if Seabridge Gold mines gold, the answer is no. It doesn't mine any gold. It won't mine it this year, next year, or the year after, or the year after that. But it does have gold in the ground. The others are mostly miners, I suppose. So adding those up, if it was to invest in accordance with the index weighting, it's going to be putting those 7 companies are going to be putting $1.4 billion into those 7 companies. And I get that 1.7, the exact amounts going in by taking the index weight of 1.7%, for example, let's take London Gold, for example. I take 1.34 as the index weight for London Gold, and the total value of the stocks in GDX a few days ago was 19.3 billion, call it 20 billion if you want. So 19.3 billion or 20 billion, multiplied by the weighting in the new index, which is 1.34%, gives me an investment to be made in London Gold of $259 million approximately. So we can see the figures. I'll just run through them if you're not watching and listening. Industrias Penoles will have 327 million invested. All these numbers, by the way, are approximate and not guaranteed, because the fund manager, you will find, if you read the prospectus in full, has a certain degree of I don't want to call it discretion, but basically doesn't have to totally follow the index in the way that you might be expecting it to, but broadly speaking, they will. Then we've got Aman Mineral Inc., which could be $301 million, London Gold, $259 million, Fresnillo, they might put $234 million into it, Artemis Gold maybe put $157 million into it, PT Bumi Resources Minerals, TBK, maybe put $79 million into it, and Seabridge Gold, if they decide to buy it at all, it'd be $57 million, give or take. But also, amongst the major holdings which are in the index and are in the new index, the weightings are different. So let's just see where the biggest changes are. One of the biggest changes is an increase in the weighting of Agnico Eagle, which was 11.93% of the GDX portfolio a couple of days ago, but it's actually 13.52% of the Market Vectors Gold Mining Index. That means they've got to buy the difference between 11.93% and 13.52%, which is an investment of $307 million going into Agnico Eagle. We'll skip through the ones which are in orange. Those are the new investments. I mentioned them already a minute ago. Then we get a new investment in Barrick, or increase the investment. Barrick's weighting was 7.45, would be, or will be probably, 8.64. That means $230 million, roughly, dollars can go into Barrick. And then we have another one, Pan American Silver. That looks like a big one, where the weighting was 1.93 in the GDX, and it's currently going to go to 3.01, which is an increase in the value from $373 million to $580 million. That's a difference of $207 million goes into Pan American Silver. Next one, we see Kinross will show an increase from 4 to nearly 5%, or above 5%, $180 million going to Kinross. Then we've got Artemis, we've done that one, $157 million going into Artemis. Alamos Gold, we'll see $134 million going in. The PT Bumi Resource, we've done that at 79. And then we have Kerr Mining, which gets an extra $69 million. And then if you can scroll down, I'm going to scroll down slowly so you can note down any of the names which you're interested in. But you can see there's quite a few names which are going to get tens of millions in extra investments. So amongst the companies which are getting more exposure, we've got Kerr Mining, Northern Star Resources, Seabridge, Anglo Gold, Ashanti, B2 Gold, IAM Gold, SSR Mining, Goldfields Limited, Ocean Gold Corp, New Gold, First Majestic Silver. That one, yeah, of course we can have silver companies in the gold mining index. I just realised from the prospectus. Wesdome Gold Mines Canada, Capricorn Metals, Fortuna Silver Mines, Hecla Mining, Perseus Mining, Torex Gold, Canada. Perseus Mining, by the way, is an Australian company. Ore Royalties, Sandstorm Gold, K92 Mining in Canada, and West Gold Resources in Australia. All of those will see if they're going to come in line with the new index, the new benchmark. We'll see significant new purchases in the millions of dollars going into their shares. But what about companies which have got too much? Well, here we're going to see the companies where the weighting in the index is less than before. So let's just sort this the other way around. Which ones are going to have the largest downwards change in value? Well, we mentioned Zergin Mining Corp. The weighting goes from 3.26 to 0. So that's 629, or maybe a bit more now, with the rise in the market. $629 million, which will be sold. Another interesting one here is probably won't affect the price, but it's worth knowing. Newmont Corp, it's going to go down from 13.25 currently in the GDX down to 11.70. That's a sale of $299 million. And then we have Wheaton Precious Metals Corp, where the sale will have to be $187 million. Endeavour Mining, where the sale will be $126 million. I have a feeling the new index has got Endeavour Mining London instead of Canada, but I think it's still the same company. Then we get to Orla Mining. There's a reduction there. I won't say the amount. And then we got G Mining, that's 112 with 109 million. Then we get Dundee Precious Metals, which will see of course, those companies go to zero. I didn't realize. In green, they're going to zero. Yes, those companies are going to zero. The ones which will stay in the index, but will just reduce, is Royal Gold, down by 94 million. Wow, that's an interesting one. They've got a Chinese company left in the index called Jiaojin Mining Industry Co., where the weighting will be still in the index and still in the GDX, but they're going to be selling, knocking that weighting down from 305 million to 218 million. That's 87 million of shares they're going to have to sell in that company through the Hong Kong market. And then we've got the other green ones which are going to zero. We've got Equinox Gold going down from 1.08 to 0.73. That's 67 million. Evolution Mining going down 62 million. Harmony Gold going down 26 million, not too much there. Then a few others which are going down. Genesis Minerals, Buenaventura, or Compañía de Minas Buenaventura. Franco-Nevada goes down by around 4 million. It's not really a big change there. Eldorado Gold Corp goes down by 3.8 million. So the changes there weren't very big. They're pretty minor. And then we go into the ones where the weighting's going up. So, ladies and gentlemen, just to kind of summarize everything for you, now we've looked at that, I'll bring my screen back. So basically, to summarize everything, what's happening, the name of the buyer and seller is the VanEck Gold Miners Index, or VanEck Gold Miners, not index, the VanEck Gold Miners Exchange Traded Fund. And the reason it's making some purchases and sales, and very large ones, is because they are changing the index which they are going to be tracking in the future. So it's transitioning to a new underlying index, and that transition will take place on September 19th, 2025, in about 10 days' time. So the reallocation of the stocks in the portfolio to match the new index will have to take place on or shortly after or around 19th of September, or potentially at the next rebalancing date, which could be the 30th of September. So I can't say with certainty exactly which date they'll do it, but it seems highly probable they'll start to balance the holdings to be the same on both sides on the 19th of September. And logically, they should do that at the closing prices, but we'll see. I don't know if they will, because I haven't got any information on that. We haven't got the details on that particular aspect quite yet. But there will be some significant sales, notably Zergin Mining Group, that's a really big one, and notable purchases like Alamos Gold, B2 Gold, and London Gold. So basically, this is a large set of transactions going on in the gold mining sector. It could disrupt the prices, or it may not. I'm not making any recommendation at all about any sort of trading. I'm not saying you should buy or sell anything. This is not my purpose of the exercise. My purpose of the exercise here is to bring you the information that it's happening. You can make your own decisions if you think you want to do something. But just to say, some big names are likely to be aware of this index change. These will be the very large companies which specialize in index arbitrage. There'll be companies out there which do that. They'll be watching for these sorts of changes, and they will be preparing themselves to buy certain shares in advance or go short certain shares in advance to basically cooperate with the VanEck gold mining, global gold mining ETF, so that there's a smooth transition. But just a word of warning, we'll just go back to this prospectus and read a little bit of the warning about what they think might just happen here. So let's just go and have a look at the prospectus to see what it's got to say about disruption in trading when this happens. So I'll go across to the prospectus here, and we'll have a look down to, so don't forget, the prospectus says, accordingly, after the close of trading on September 19th, 2025, in 8 days' time, the effective date, the fund's benchmark will change, and the fund's benchmark index will be the index, which was defined earlier as the market vectors gold miner. Here we are, the market vector global gold miners index. So it will change on the 19th of September. And what does it say down here about the disruption? It says, first of all, the index is currently constituted and rebalanced quarterly. That's the index, not the ETF. Market vector may delay or change a scheduled rebalancing or reconstitution of the index or the implementation of certain rules at its sole discretion. Well, that's market vectors. They can rebalance the index or do whatever they like with it every 3 months. But it looks to me like the changes would most likely take place on the 19th of September to minimize the tracking error. But let's see what it says. In connection with this change, the fund may experience additional portfolio turnover, which may cause the fund to incur additional transaction costs, and, I think this is mainly for Americans, may result in higher taxes when the fund shares are held in a taxable account. During the period of the transition, and it doesn't say how long the period of the transition is, but I'm guessing it's going to be very short, because otherwise they'll have too much tracking error. During the period of the transition, the fund is likely to incur higher tracking error than is typical for the fund. So the fund, we now know, is a gold and silver fund, but they, just to put that in perspective, they can't have more than 20% of the fund's exposure to companies which have less than 50% exposure. So silver mining companies, which are mainly silver mining, can't be more than 20% of the fund, but all the other shares have to be either 50% in gold, i.e. gold mining, or 50% in gold reserves, one or the other. I think also I read they're going to cap the max. Yeah, there's going to be a cap of the maximum holding at 20%. Somewhere, but that's by the by. No company's that big at the moment. So the index and the new composition of the fund will still be gold mining companies, but a little bit more concentrated on gold mining companies, which means, to my mind, that many of these overlap things with the smaller companies in the GDXJ will have gone, and there should be less overlap between the two ETFs. So thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just go back to the camera. It's been great seeing you. If you like this video, thumbs up. If you'd like to hear more or see more when I discover things in the stock market, click the subscribe button and the little bell which goes with it. And of course, I'll be very happy to try and answer any questions you might have in the coming days, maybe for a few days. I won't be able to answer every question, but if I see interesting ones and so forth, I'll try and answer them. And if you put them in the comments below. Also, a small comment about the comments. Don't forget that quite often we have a situation where scammers come into the comments. They pretend to be me. I never ask you to contact me by WhatsApp or by Telegram or by Instagram. So if it looks like a photograph of me, it's got my name, but it's asking you to contact me to clarify something. It's not me writing to you that. I will be replying, but I won't be asking anyone to leave the YouTube to go somewhere else. And also watch out for these scammers which come into my videos sometimes to say, hey, I've got a friend who made me a lot of money. Her name is da-da-da, and you can reach her on WhatsApp or whatever. Those are all scams. They're out to take your money. So be very careful. Anyway, thank you very much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and thumbs up. Bye-bye, everybody.